Imagine you are tasked with managing the schedule for like over 2,500 Major League Baseball games.
Yeah, that sounds completely impossible.
Right. And your job isn't just to make sure people know what time the first pitch is. You have to, actively drive ticket sales. You have to push merchandise updates to thousands of fans and meticulously track who is actually planning to show up.
Oh, and without buying any fancy new marketing software.
Exactly. Here's the catch. You have to orchestrate this massive multi-tiered campaign using literally only the standard native calendar app currently sitting on your phone.
Which is wild because we are so conditioned to think of our personal calendars as these quiet, static administrative chores. Just a boring grid where your dentist appointment lives.
Yeah, totally.
But the source material we are looking at today completely shatters that limitation.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to decode a really fascinating, highly detailed technical architecture document for something called a calendar invite server, or CIS. We are going to explore how a humble, everyday calendar application is transformed into this highly automated marketing and analytics engine. And by the end of this, I promise, you're going to completely rethink how you view those standard calendar invites sitting in your inbox.
To kind of ground this technical architecture in reality, the document anchors the workflow around a specific organizer. We'll follow a guy named Greg.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, Greg, who operates using the domain 31events.com. And he is the one staring down this monumental task of managing the 2026 Major League Baseball schedule.
Over 2,500 individual baseball games.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Greg, my first thought is that data entry alone is going to break me.
Oh, for sure.
Trying to organize a dinner with like 5 friends takes 20 text messages. So how does a single organizer input thousands of unique events into a server database without needing, a team of developers to build a custom interface?
Well, the biggest hurdle in software adoption is always learning a new interface.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody wants to learn a new dashboard.
Exactly. So the engineers behind the calendar invite server, they just bypass that completely. The architecture relies on the tools the organizer already knows how to use. Greg simply uses his native calendar client, whether that's Google Calendar or Microsoft Outlook, as his absolute source of truth.
So he really is just opening up his everyday Google Calendar and typing in like Baltimore Orioles versus Tampa Bay Rays.
Precisely, just typing it in. But the magic happens in how that information leaves his personal device. To get that data into the back-end marketing database, he adds a specific email address as a guest on the calendar event.
Okay, wait, just as a guest.
Yeah, just as a normal guest. He sends it to an AWS Simple Email Service mailbox, which is configured specifically for this process. The address is create@calendarsnack.com.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit because I want to understand the mechanics of that. When that email leaves his outbox, what is actually happening on the server side? The text mentions an inbound processor pipeline and an ETL process, but how does an email turn into a functional database entry?
So, AWS Simple Email Service, or SES, it essentially acts as a massive digital catcher's mitt. It's designed to receive incoming emails at massive scale.
Right.
When it catches Greg's calendar invite, it hands it off to the ETL process, which stands for extract, transform, and load.
Okay.
Think of the calendar invite file, the .ics file, as a tightly packed suitcase. The server unzips it, extracts the vital metadata like the date, time, location, the description.
Everything he typed in.
Exactly. It transforms that data into a standardized format and then loads it as a new event into a highly scalable database called DynamoDB.
I mean, it's like your standard Google Calendar is the steering wheel, and it's secretly driving a massive server farm in the background.
That was a great way to put it.
Wait, I have to pause and look at the fragility of this setup. Because if the server is just, watching an email inbox for CR read commands, create, read, update, delete, isn't that incredibly fragile?
How do you mean?
Well, what if human error inevitably kicks in? Let's say Greg accidentally types 1.00 p.m. instead of 1.00 a.m. for a game. If he goes back into his Google Calendar, fixes the time, and hits save, his email client is going to fire off another email.
Right.
Doesn't the server just see a second email and create a duplicate game in DynamoDB?
It definitely would if it weren't for a brilliant piece of engineering called the sticky UID, or unique identifier.
Sticker UID.
Yeah. The very first time Greg's event goes through that ETL process, the system generates this sticky UID and permanently attaches it to Greg's organizer email address inside the database.
Oh, I see. So to use the remote control analogy, that sticky UID is the permanent radio frequency that keeps it paired to the server. No matter what buttons you push on the remote, the server just mimics the command without treating it like a brand new television.
That is the perfect analogy. Because of that dedicated frequency, when Greg fixes his typo and hits edit and save, the system's inbound processor intercepts the new email, reads the UID, and checks the database.
And it says, oh, we know this guy.
Exactly. It realizes, we already know about this event. So instead of creating a duplicate, it flawlessly overwrites the specific fields that changed. Greg can tweak and update that single event an unlimited number of times before the game actually happens, all just from his phone.
That is wild. That completely removes the complexity from the user's hands. He's managing a massive cloud database without ever looking at a line of code.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a pristine database sitting in the dark doesn't put butts in stadium seats. How does a fan actually interact with this backend? Does Greg just send out a raw data link?
Not at all. This is where we move from the backend database to what the source calls the display APIs. This is the system's way of translating rows of database text into a visual, user-friendly front end.
Okay.
Inside the CIS web dashboard, Greg has the ability to automatically generate shareable schedule pages.
Yeah, I was looking at the configuration steps for this. It really seems to bypass the need for a web developer entirely. He isn't writing HTML, he's basically just acting like a creative director.
Yes, exactly. He logs into the system's marketing hub, searches for his specific organizer email, and essentially sets a few design parameters.
Like what?
Well, the text shows him choosing a month layout to display the games. He selects a color palette named Sky to match the MLB branding, and he drops in a URL for a custom background image.
And the API instantly compiles those choices into a live web page. He can take that link, maybe shorten it with a tiny URL, and push it out to the public.
Right, and let's follow a fan's journey to see how effective this is. The document introduces a customer persona named Zach.
Okay, Zach.
Zach uses the email zach@techvader.com. So Zach clicks the link and lands on this beautifully branded schedule page showing all 2,500 games. But he doesn't have to highlight dates, copy them, and paste them into his own calendar.
Which is the worst.
It really is. Instead, the interface asks for his email address right at the top of the page.
So he types his email into the slot, scrolls down to, let's say, the Baltimore Orioles versus Tampa Bay Rays Round 9 game, and there is just a button next to it that says, Send Invite.
Yep. And the moment he clicks that button, the API triggers a match in the DynamoDB database, pulls the specific data for Round 9, and fires an official, natively formatted calendar invite straight to Zach's inbox.
So instead of a static list of dates on a website, this is basically a vending machine for calendar events.
A vending machine, I like that.
Yeah, you put your email in the slot, you press the button for the Orioles game, and boom, the .ics file drops right into your inbox. The friction of filling out a massive registration form or creating a new username, it just disappears.
And removing friction is the absolute holy grail of user acquisition. You are giving the fan exactly what they want, the game details on their own schedule with a single click.
Oh wait, the interaction doesn't end when the email hits Zach's inbox, right? Because the document shifts really heavily into data tracking here. When Zach opens that invite and clicks yes to attending the game, where does that information actually go?
This relies on a fascinating, kind of decades-old feature of the internet that most marketers completely ignore.
Right.
Yeah. When Zach clicks yes or no, or maybe, his calendar software automatically fires a tiny message called a calendar receipt back to the sender, and the CIS API gateway is waiting to catch it.
Okay, hold on. I know you're saying this is incredibly useful for Greg, but as a listener, I mean, doesn't this feel a little bit like Big Brother?
How so?
Well, I'm just clicking yes on my personal calendar, and suddenly Greg has a spreadsheet tracking my intent and my software.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of invisible tracking pixel hidden inside the calendar file? Because that feels a bit like spyware.
That is a very natural reaction for sure, but it's important to clarify the mechanism here. There are no tracking pixels or hidden spyware involved.
Okay.
The calendar receipt is just part of the original iCall standard protocol. It is literally the fundamental plumbing of the internet, designed back in the late 1990s so that colleagues could see who was showing up to a meeting. Greg isn't hacking anyone's phone.
Wow. So the data has literally always been there every single time we caddis RSVP to anything.
Always. Every single time. What is revolutionary here isn't the data itself, but the architecture that actually captures it. Normally, those receipts just clutter up an email inbox and get deleted.
Oh, yeah, those annoying accepted emails.
Exactly. But the CIS API gateway collects that receipt, temporarily parks it in an Amazon S3 bucket to handle the sheer volume of thousands of RSVPs, and then structures it neatly into the DynamoDB database.
Oh, wow. So it turns chaotic email noise into a clean analytics
Yeah.
dashboard because the text shows Greg going into the reporting hub in the dashboard. He searches for the Baltimore versus Tampa round 9 game, and he can literally just click view details and then email me the invitee report.
And the level of detail in that CSV file you get in your inbox is staggering when you consider Zach never actually filled out a survey.
Right.
Greg receives Zach's email address, his name if his client provides it, and his exact RSVP status YN or M. It also tracks the origin, meaning Greg knows Zach requested the invite from the public schedule page rather than, say, a direct link.
And it even logs something called the prod ID.
Yes, the prod ID is incredibly valuable. It tells the system exactly which calendar client Zach is using. It differentiates between an Apple Calendar user and a Google Calendar user, for example.
Why does that matter?
Because knowing your audience's software environment allows for much better troubleshooting and formatting down the line.
Ah, that makes sense. So it gathers all of this structured intent data silently, just by utilizing the natural behavior of managing a calendar. We aren't forcing the user to go to a secondary landing page and answer 5 questions just to get a ticket reminder.
Exactly. And knowing exactly who is coming and who is on the fence leads us to the most powerful capability outlined in the document. The true marketing potential really reveals itself through what they call the update processor.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this workflow really caught my attention. Let's say Greg looks at his reporting hub and sees a massive block of fans who RSVP'd yes to the Orioles and Rays game. He wants to capitalize on that foot traffic and run a physical merchandise promotion at the stadium.
In a traditional setup, Greg would have to export that list, import it into a marketing dashboard, design an HTML email campaign, and blast it out. It's a whole process.
Right, but with this architecture, he just opens that original event in his native Google Calendar.
He grabs the remote control again.
Exactly. He edits the event description and types out a highly specific offer, something like, stop by booth 788 for a signed Orioles merch t-shirt at the game limited supply of just 250 t-shirts. And he just hits save.
Yep.
Wait, so let me get this straight. The moment he hits save, his email client fires another update to that create email address. But how does the server know this isn't just a typo fix? How does it know this is a marketing blast that needs to be distributed?
The update processor contains the logic for this. It reads that sticky UID we talked about earlier. It queries the database and sees that this UID matches an event that is scheduled in the future.
Oh, I see.
Because the event hasn't happened yet, the system recognizes this as an active dynamic update.
And it doesn't just sit in the database. The system actively pushes it out to the fans.
Without requiring any manual approval, though Greg could configure a manual switch if he wanted to, the system automatically triggers an AWS Lambda function.
Okay, for those of us who aren't cloud engineers, what makes a Lambda function so special here? Why not just have the server constantly checking for updates?
Having a server constantly checking 2,500 games every minute of every day would burn an immense amount of computing power and cost an absolute fortune.
Right, that makes sense.
AWS Lambda is what's called a serverless function. It is a piece of code that sits completely dormant, costing nothing, until that specific update trigger wakes it up.
Oh, wow.
Once awake, the Lambda function utilizes the outbound processor and AWS SES RAW to instantly distribute the updated calendar invite to every single attendee.
That is wild. Greg types a sentence on his phone, and a dormant cloud architecture wakes up, blasts it to thousands of people, and goes back to sleep.
It's incredibly efficient.
Let's look at the customer persona, Mandy, from the text to see how this lands. So Mandy had originally requested the invite, but clicked maybe. She is on the fence about attending.
Suddenly, her phone buzzes. Her calendar client silently updates the event file, and she sees this new message offering a limited edition signed t-shirt at booth 788. The targeted offer works. She's enticed, decides to go, and changes her RSVP from maybe to yes.
Which means her calendar software instantly fires off a new receipt back to the API gateway. The database updates her row, and Greg's analytics now show that he just converted a maybe to a yes using a merch offer. And he literally didn't log into a fancy marketing dashboard to send an email blast to his maybes. He literally just updated his own Google Calendar, and the server handled the rest.
It fundamentally transforms the calendar event from a static placeholder into a live, two-way communication channel. You are reaching the customer right where they organize their daily life.
That is so powerful.
And furthermore, the document highlights that those display APIs running the public web schedule are simultaneously updated. So any new fan who discovers the page and requests an invite will automatically see the merch offer too. The single source of truth is perfectly synchronized across the entire campaign.
Okay, organic discovery through a web page is a fantastic tool. But it does raise a question about scale. What if Greg already has a massive list of people? Say he has a spreadsheet of VIP season ticket holders. Typing their emails into a vending machine website one by one isn't feasible for thousands of people. How does he scale this one-to-one interaction into a mass outbound campaign?
The document provides two distinct methods for scaling up, completely bypassing the public schedule page entirely.
Okay.
The first is straightforward. It's called VIP Direct Send. Inside the Marketing Hub, Greg can upload a CSV file containing up to 500 or 1,000 email addresses at a time.
Oh, nice.
He selects a specific event, like round 10, and the API directly sends out individual calendar invites to everyone on that list in one massive batch simultaneously.
That sounds incredibly useful for like an internal corporate webinar or a targeted VIP list. But what if Greg is already deeply entrenched in a traditional email marketing platform? Let's say he uses MailChimp to send a weekly newsletter to 50,000 fans, and he wants to put an RSVP button for the game right inside that newsletter.
That is where the email marketing integration shines. A normal RSVP button in an email usually redirects the user to a landing page, where they have to type their email address all over again.
Yeah, which again, creates friction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The CIS eliminates this by providing what they call email platform merge codes.
The document lists support for platforms like MailChimp, Klaviyo, SendGrid, HubSpot, and even a generic option. How does a merge code actually remove the friction for the fan reading the email?
Let's use MailChimp as the example. Greg logs into the CIS dashboard, selects the Detroit Tigers versus Pittsburgh Pirates game, and copies the specialized call to action link. This link is unique because it includes MailChimp's native syntax for merge tags.
Right.
Specifically, it's the asterisk pipe, the word email pipe asterisk.
Well, yeah, I've seen those tags. It's how the email software knows to insert "Hi, John" instead of "Hi, customer."
Exactly. So Greg goes into his MailChimp editor, creates a large button that says RSVP here to get the calendar invite, and embeds that link. When a fan receives the newsletter and clicks the button, MailChimp's server dynamically replaces that merge tag with the fan's actual email address right inside the URL.
So essentially, by using these merge codes, you're smuggling a smart, personalized application inside a basic HTML email button.
That's a great way to look at it.
The customer doesn't have to type their email again. The system
Yeah.
just knows who they are. They click it, and because their email is already hard-coded into the link, the backend REST API catches the request and instantly sends the calendar invite.
It acts as a true, frictionless, one-click RSVP. The system then instantly redirects the user's browser to a simple confirmation landing page. And just like before, the system waits patiently to collect their yes, no, or maybe receipt to feed back into Greg's analytics.
The elegance of the entire workflow is really something. Let's synthesize the journey we just took through this document. We started with a simple, mundane calendar entry created by a guy named Greg. Through the engineering of this calendar invite server, that single entry was extracted, transformed, and loaded into a massive database.
Yeah.
It was automatically rendered into a branded web schedule without a developer. It tracked RSVPs silently, using open internet protocols instead of invasive tracking pixels. It empowered Greg to push a live, dynamic merchandise update for Booth 788 just by editing his own calendar on his phone.
Yep.
And finally, it provided the infrastructure to scale the whole operation out to thousands of fans via MailChimp and bulk VIP CSV uploads. All of this was managed seamlessly by treating the native calendar as a central command console.
And the takeaway here goes far beyond baseball games. Whether you are running a sprawling 2,500 event sports league or organizing weekly webinars or just trying to manage team meetings for a mid-sized business, understanding how APIs can interact with our everyday tools really changes how we approach communication.
It really does.
When you remove the friction required for a user to commit their time, engagement naturally skyrockets. You don't always need to build a complex new platform. Sometimes you just need to unlock the hidden potential of the tools sitting right in front of you.
Think about this as you go about your week. We have spent the last decade, maybe longer, trying to achieve inbox zero by obsessively managing our emails. The standard inbox has become incredibly noisy, chaotic, and frankly, easy for a consumer to ignore.
Oh, absolutely.
But as calendar invites evolve into these dynamic, two-way, highly trackable marketing channels, is your calendar actually becoming the real inbox of the future? Is the real battle for consumer attention happening on the daily grid rather than the inbox list? Something to think about the next time you blindly hit accept.